Okay, today I want to talk a little bit about distractions in nose work. In the lower levels in nose work, regardless of the organization, there are no intentionally planned distractions. However, as you move up through the levels, in the different organizations, there are strategically placed items that are known as distractions that are put there to throw the dogs off and make the searching and the actual trials more challenging. Now, how you deal with this can greatly affect the success of your dog dealing with the distractions they encounter. For me, before I'm even going to worry about distractions, I want to make sure that everything else is in place and looks ideal the way that I actually want the picture as far as the training process to look without the distractions. If I'm having other problems or complications elsewhere in my training, I'm not even going to worry about distractions. So that's a really big deal for me to state to people. First off, if you're having issues with false responses or your dog doesn't know, it doesn't have odor recognition, it's not going to source, you're not actually getting the specific response that you're trying to train the dogs to do, don't even worry about distractions. But if everything looks ideal and looks the way you want it to look when they're on just for odor alone, you can start to incorporate distractions. And the way that I do that is very specific and incremental and methodical to make sure I can maximize success for the dogs encountering them. The first thing I want to do before I'm going to have the dogs actually stumble upon a distraction is put in a very secure device, which I have, sometimes I use suet cages, and sometimes I will use like a small crate that I can put a weight inside of and zip tie the door closed, I can kind of show some of those in a different video. But I want to put something, that will put the distraction, something very safe. I want to make sure the animal cannot get to the distraction. But like part of the system for me is having the dog choose to ignore the distraction before they start their search. So I'm not going to have them kind of stumble upon it as they're searching with lots of vigor and enthusiasm for a high of odor, have them stumble upon a distraction. When I'm starting to incorporate this concept to the dog, I want them to choose to ignore a distraction to start a search. And the way that I deal with that is in the training lab. So at the starting line in my training lab, I will have in a very secure device a very low level distraction. We're talking about something that's mildly distracting to the dog. I don't want to go right off the bat and put something of extremely high value there because it's just too much, it's too tempting for the dog. But if I start with something really low level, like which for me can be a food wrapper or like a small part of a toy if it's a dog that works for a toy, it's just going to be something that's slightly appealing, but nothing too distracting to the dog. And then I'm going to put odor fairly close into the search after they choose to ignore this. Now, if they want to try to get at this actual distraction and they're pawing at it or biting or whatever, that's what I'm saying. It's very important that this item is contained in something that's very safe. I don't want them to get access to the actual distraction. So when they try to get to it, they're not successful. And then I get them to go past it and start into the search area. They find odor, they do the behavior that they know they're supposed to do, and they get something of way more value. I don't want them to, again, have to ignore something of very high value only to go to odor and get something of the same or less value. It should be something that they're ignoring at very low value, going to odor and getting something of very high value. The ratio between those two is very important to me, especially in the beginning stages. And again, this is just one low-level distraction that they can see, they can smell, they know it's there, they choose to ignore it after some period of time where they realize they're not going to be successful at getting to it even if they try. They go into the search, they find odor, and they get something of substantial, like there's much greater for them, the actual reward they get when they find the target odor. When they'll do that from one low-level distraction at the starting line, I can kind of start to place a couple of these things in the search. Now again, these are not things that are hidden in the search. They're out there, they can see them, they can smell them, they know they're there, I as a handler or trainer know they're there. The dog is choosing to ignore them and continuing to search. So until the point that they kind of just start to blow them off and ignore them. When they'll do that, I can start to increase the value of whatever is inside the item that's holding the distraction and slowly make it more and more appealing. But I'm still not going to actually hide that item in the search area, in a drawer, in a box, in a container, or anything like that. These are still in items that are very secure, out in the open that the dog chooses to ignore. Once that happens, I can kind of start to play around with actually hiding distractions. But throughout this process, if this does not go well, I'm going to back it down and make sure the dog will ignore these.